Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Marketing for Startups podcast. I am Victoria Hajar. I'm so excited that you're joining me. Today, we're going to be talking about how to decide where to invest in your business in the marketing department. So, I think that there's a misconception that you can just hustle and hustle and hustle and grow organically and do really amazing content on your own, and you're just going to get all of this traction. And I'm here to tell you that nowadays that just simply is not the case. Putting all your eggs in the basket of thinking that you're just going to be creating awesome content and people are going to automatically organically be drawn to you, those days are long gone. And so it's really important to allocate a budget to marketing in the area of attracting new customers for your growth strategy. There's really no way around it. If you listen to the episode of the 3 ways to grow your business and grow your audience online, you'll know that there's 3, as I mentioned, ways, which is an SEO strategy, a sophisticated SEO strategy, online ads, or partnerships. And partnerships can look like anything. They could look like participating in events or conferences, doing influencer marketing with, if you're e-commerce, doing a lifestyle influencer campaigns, things like that. And the third way is we have SEO, partnerships, and advertising. Okay, I made all 3 of them. But the thing is this, even with partnerships, which are traditionally kind of the way that you can freebie hack your way to growth, nowadays is getting more and more difficult to find those free opportunities. Influencers, good influencers these days are charging for their services. It's just the way the world is working. And so going into your business with the idea of not allocating a big budget to your sales and marketing department, I think is absolutely the wrong mentality to have. We need to have a growth mindset, a growth mentality when we're going into our business, and understand that it's going to take money to make money. I know a lot of successful entrepreneurs that have built great businesses without a big budget. But what we're looking at is the time it takes. And the sad reality is that, yeah, maybe someone could build something slowly and it could be really great, but maybe that takes 10 years. And a lot of us don't have that kind of time. So how do we know where to invest in our business in order to supercharge the growth? So I was inspired to do this episode after listening to a YouTube video by Dan Martell, who is a serial entrepreneur, very successful. He's now a coach and consultant. He has a lot of really great stuff on his YouTube channel. But he had mentioned this idea of implementing when you're trying to vet certain tactics that you're going to employ, tactics that you need to throw some budget at, that you kind of run it past this ICE test. And I just thought this was such like a clever way of thinking about how to choose which tactics you're going to employ. So before we get into the ICE, how to kind of put it through the ICE test, I want to say that before you start throwing money into your business or sales efforts, you want to make sure that you have a solid strategy, that you have a plan. Okay. We're not just going to be throwing money into the abyss and crossing our fingers to see if they turn into sales. If we haven't done that legwork, if we don't have our client value journey that all planned out, we're going to waste a heck of a lot of money. We want to make sure that when we're throwing some money at certain strategies, that we have the systems and the procedures and systems in place to be able to move those people through the sales journey that's actually going to help them convert into sales, right? And an example I like to give is that you don't want to spend a ton of money on advertising to get people to your homepage, and then your homepage is really crummy. You just don't want that. You don't want to bring people to your homepage, but it's not easy to buy, that you're going to have a super high bounce rate. You don't want to pay for a super high bounce rate, right? So let's make sure that, that client value journey is well thought out, that you've improved each step of that client journey as much as you can before you start really throwing money behind growing a certain part of that client value journey. So I think a really good way to start is to look at the attract stage, right? Which is the first stage of your client value journey. How are you reaching new audience? How are you finding new potential clients? And in the episode of 3 Ways to Grow Your Business, we chatted about, the ins and outs of those 3 strategies. But let's say that you're trying to decide which attract strategy to actually go after, right? With that, I would say we can put this through the ICE test, which is this Dan Martell concept that he came up with. So ICE is actually an acronym, and it stands for impact, confidence, and ease. Okay. So let's say you're deciding between an SEO strategy to employ in your business, a advertising program, or a partnership program. We're going to want to look at, okay, based on our persona and our target client, let's make some intelligent decisions on how we think we can attract that particular persona, that target client most effectively. So you're going to look at these 3 programs that you could possibly implement in your business to attract new clients, right? The advertising, the SEO, or the partnerships, and say, based on our persona, who do we think are going to give us, how are we going to get the best results, right? So you want to be putting it through this discussion, this creative discussion with your team, or even just journaling it out with yourself of, I have this client I'm trying to reach. What are they going to respond the best to? And in working out this particular case, I always like to think, okay, when your target client is thinking about buying your product, are they doing a Google search? Are they actually putting that some keywords into a search bar and they're looking for your product or service that way? There's actually a lot of things that people don't particularly do Google searches for, right? I think for me personally, I think about how I shop, right? I don't usually shop like I'm looking for a specific, I'm looking for dresses. And so I'm just randomly looking for dresses for an event. I don't do usually a Google search for that. I'm usually going to Pinterest, or I'm going to Instagram to look at fashion influencers and getting some inspiration or ideas from them, right? So if you're trying to attract someone like me for your e-commerce business, I wouldn't say that pouring a lot of money into SEO maybe would be the best idea. SEO is incredibly important to do in concert with all of those. You should be doing 3 of these growth strategies ideally. But if you're just starting out and you're trying to pick which one you're going to focus on, you can maybe rule SEO out if your target client doesn't really do a Google search to find your product or service. The next thing you want to do is cost. So say through this practice, you say, okay, sorry, not cost, confidence, right? The second part is impact and confidence. I put cost there because I think that is also really important to look at anything that you employ in your business and you want to allocate a budget to. You want to kind of look at what's going to be the most cost effective. So if I'm going to put my own spin on it, I would say ICE would be looking at cost and confidence. But we're talking about now confidence because it's really important to say, if we're going to employ a specific tactic like a advertising campaign, Google AdWords, or social media campaign ads, or an SEO strategy, we need to say, do I have confidence that my existing team can execute that? Do I need to find an expert to execute that particular tactic? And what would be the cost associated with that? Because that's going to influence your decision. Whether if you have an experience running ads yourself and you're confident that you could do something successfully, that's going to help push you towards what kind of tactics you employ, right? What kind of programs you employ. So that is definitely something to consider when deciding where to invest your money in your marketing budget. And then the last one is ease. So my anecdote here is going to be about partnerships, okay? Because now we're still talking about how to attract new clients. So we have these three choices: SEO, partnerships, or paid ads. So a lot of companies love the idea of partnerships because it is really cost effective. But the ease of finding awesome partners that are going to give you great ROI, the time it takes to coordinate, the time it takes to get it right, it's not usually the easiest path, the quickest path. And so I want you to kind of take that lens and look at all of these tactics that you want to play. So we're talking just about the attract phase, but if it's getting onto a social media platform or deciding which social media platforms to really spend your time, energy, and effort in, the same kind of screening tests can apply, right? You're going to want to go towards the path of least resistance that's going to give you the best results. And it's important before you start doing any of those things to take a moment and meditate on putting it through these three questions, right? What's going to make the biggest impact? What do you have the most confidence executing? And what's going to be the easiest to execute? It's a really wonderful tool that I wanted to share with you all. And then the last bit that I want to talk about is about team. I think that it's imperative as a founder, even, as a bootstrap founder or a recently funded founder, to spend your money wisely. It's absolutely essential to spend your money wisely. And I would say that it's as important to vet whomever you have coming into your team with a lot of, doing a lot of due diligence on them. And I think that we tend to conceptualize HR departments as being part of big operations. But even if you are a one act show right now, one woman show, one man show in your business, you need to treat your business as having an HR department, even if you are the HR director, right? And do some conscious research on any service provider that you have coming into your business. Make sure that they have gotten the results before that you're looking for, right? I think we're kind of in an era now of Fiverr and all these things where, and I have this pain myself, where you're trying to find copywriters, social media ad managers, social media content creators. And, there's a lot of people there's so many service providers that are out there, just so many, because, at the very basic level, these things are not difficult to do. There's a lot of copywriters out there that aren't formally trained, that don't know about how to write for keywords or write for SEO. People out there that just can write English. So I've put proposals out there onto these platforms and gotten hundreds and hundreds of not super qualified people kind of applying for these positions. And it always takes me a long time of really interviewing, getting prerequisite questions together and all of this stuff to make sure that I'm getting the right service provider. And I would urge you to do the same. And go into it the understanding of, you're going to succeed and you're going to fail. And there's always a little bit of a risk when you bring someone into your team to execute. And I think that the success rate can really be determined by how much vetting you do beforehand. So really determine, that core team or whomever you need to support you when you're executing different aspects of the marketing program, and spend a lot of time, making sure that whomever you bring in have gotten results for other clients that you want. That's going to help you get from point A to point Z a lot quicker. So in conclusion, the three most important points of this topic of how to decide where to invest in your marketing budget is determining what actions can you do? Once you have your client value journey organized, right? And there's no kind of leaks in your system where your potential clients are kind of falling out of that journey. Once you have a solid client value journey, you're going to want to allocate your budget to improving that client value journey. And whichever tactic you employ in strengthening your client value journey, you want to push it through this vetting system, this ICE, right? Which is what kind of tactics can you employ that's going to give the biggest impact to your business? How much confidence do you have in executing that particular tactic? And then how easy is it going to be to implement? And what team do you need to help you, to help support you, and making sure that that team member has gotten those results before? That's going to help you cut down, a lot of wasted time to really gaining traction in your business in that particular area of marketing you're trying to improve. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, I know that it's maybe can be a little bit confusing, tactics and strategies. And the previous episode that I launched last week talks all about the difference between strategy and tactics, because a lot of times those words are interchangeable. But again, once we have our larger strategy in place, we're going to want to invest, right, in executing those tactics properly. And go into it with understanding that even when you have a great team, even when you've thought it through and you're doing everything right, that it is always going to be a testing and iteration process to kind of get the results that you want from that particular tactic. It's always going to be a learning curve, and there's no magic formula or magic bullet for getting those results that you want immediately. It's going to be testing, the messaging, the design of different things, the copy of different things to really hit the nail on the head. But you got to get out there and start trying, or else you're never going to make it to the next level. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I'm excited to see you back here next week in the Marketing for Startups podcast.